Worst conditions in over a century, and it's not likely to get better anytime soon. A tropical storm is headed right here near Hong Kong. Across Eastern Europe, meanwhile, searing temperatures. A heat wave continues, leaving a deadly trail. And in South America, the other extreme, the bitter cold, proving too much for both humans and animals. Well, let's begin in China. Senior international correspondent John Vos is in one of the hardest hit areas, flood-ravaged Guangzhou in Sichuan province.
With brooms and shovels, the people here are literally sweeping away the floodwaters, the worst the city of Guang'an has seen in 160 years, as they work revolutionary songs ring out from loudspeakers.
This is actually the old city of Guang'an. You can see all of these shops have just been inundated with water. And what they've been telling us is that at the peak, the floodwater was actually much higher. You can see where the watermark is, where all the damage was. So about 5 meters from then until now.
The only traffic on these streets now, rescue boats. Chinese soldiers slowly maneuver around the debris. With the levels receding, some residents have been returning to check on their homes, grab some clothes, maybe a few possessions.
These people here have been yelling out for help. They want someone to come and help them. And the Communist Party official who's with us has now said, pick 3 people, preferably someone elderly, bring them down, and they'll get them out of this area and to their safety. So there's some people just waiting over here. You can see them. They're calling us over because they want some help. They want to try and get out of this part of the city because obviously they're underwater. There's no power in here. There's no clean water. And a lot of the infrastructure's been damaged.
Others have tried to start cleaning up, salvage what they can.
What they're actually doing, he's got a bucket, but you have to wonder what he hopes to achieve. Everything here is just underwater, and it's really putrid. It's muddy, there's debris, there's God knows what in this water. There's probably sewage and a whole host of diseases as well. So it looks like this is not a healthy situation for a lot of these people to be in, and this is going to be one of the biggest problems they're going to have as the water recedes. You have to deal with disease and a whole bunch of other issues here.
Altogether, 230,000 people have been evacuated from this one city. Everyone here survived.
How long before you clean everything up?
Cleaning the mud and debris should take a few weeks, this official says. Rebuilding will take at least 6 months. But the damage bill is extensive, more than $500 million US.
Okay, so this is just one town in one province where the flooding is so bad. But remember, this flood emergency has been going on now for weeks, and they say millions of people have been affected by the rising water. And the concern is that there is more rain on the way later in the week, and that will bring more misery, more damage to more parts of China. John Vos, CNN, Guang'an, China.
So the flooding really widespread there in Guang'an. Meanwhile, we need to get a check on the conditions right now to know what's ahead. Jenny Harrison's at the World Weather Center. I know that we have a tropical storm headed my way. What else is out there?
There is indeed, as John was saying, more rain widespread across much of central and eastern China. I'm afraid, Manisha, just like we've been seeing for the last number of weeks. We're in the second month of this now, and it's all due to this area of cloud which is lying along this stationary front. It's all typical and seasonal for this time of year, but what we have seen this year is above average rainfall tied to that frontal system. We've seen areas of low pressure literally work their way along it, and that is why we have seen so much in the way of rain, and as I say, so much of it. Now, the 2 provinces we're talking about, it's all to do with the Yangtze River in particular, because you've got these other major rivers that are actually the tributaries that have fed into the Yangtze River. And then to the east into Hubei province, you have got the Three Gorges Dam. Now, this is what we were talking about just a little bit earlier, but also yesterday I was showing you this and explaining that as the forecast calls for much more rain, so the Three Gorges Dam and the reservoir has got a lot of work to do over the next few days. They're expecting 70,000 cubic meters of water per second. Back in 1998, when they had widespread flooding, over 4,000 people died, it was actually only up to 50,000 cubic meters per second. But the dam, the reservoir, is all finished. This was actually all completed last year, and so they've obviously been doing everything they can to release the water, to release the pressure, to actually hopefully alleviate this widespread flooding that could really occur. But having said all that, it will still occur because we have just got so much rain in the forecast across this entire region. Then you factor in Shantou, this tropical storm which is heading towards the west of Hong Kong. This will bring with it a huge amount of rain. You can see it's a large storm, far-reaching. It'll soon begin to batter those coastal areas. The winds are going to increase. Right now, winds at about 80 kilometres an hour, expected to intensify before it comes on shore. And so far, right now, the Hong Kong Observatory has posted a signal number 1, the warning signal for Hong Kong. Expected throughout the day today, Manisha, that will be raised to a signal 3. Back to you.
All right, Jenny, we'll look out for that. Thank you. See you later. Well, one of the deadliest disasters in human history was caused by flooding in China. In 1931, China's 3 major rivers overflowed their banks and flooded nearly 90,000 square kilometers. Estimates are that as many as 4 million people were killed by the floodwaters and ensuing famine and disease. Some 80 million people were left homeless by the disaster. And just a few years later, the Yellow River overflowed again. Hundreds of thousands more were killed in the floods of 1938. In recent decades, China has experienced an average of about 6 floods each year. And a 1998 flood is estimated to have affected about 240 million people. That's about 1/5 of the country's population at that time. Well, to get all the latest on the flooding in China, just click onto our website. The address is cnn.com/international, and you can get video highlights from our correspondents on the ground and up-to-the-minute weather updates from the region as well. Now we take you to Afghanistan, and pledges by the international community